Okay, it looks like it's the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our guest presentation, Communicating Post-Stroke Using Technology in a Multimodal System. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lisa Tim, and I will be your facilitator. Saltillo is honored to have Lois Turner and MacCallum from Canada presenting today. Lois is a speech-language pathologist who has been working for over 30 years as a specialist in AAC and assistive technology, enjoying employment in preschool, school, adult, and community settings. Currently, she is a client services manager at CAIA, or Communication Assistance for Youth and Adults, a provincial resource program that supports non-speaking adults in British Columbia. Anne is a speech-language pathologist with over 35 years of experience with AAC, including a position as a clinical specialist for AAC for adults for the province of British Columbia. She has worked with every age group and in a range of settings, including preschools, schools, hospitals, and the community. I will go ahead and turn the presentation over now to Lois and Anne, so give us just a second here.
Okay, so as Lisa said, we are two speech-language pathologists up in the Vancouver, British Columbia area, and we have spent the bulk of our careers focusing on AAC. So this is the voice of Lois, and you will hear Anne shortly. These are the learning objectives that we had to set up for you guys to participate in an actual webinar. So the first thing that I want to talk about briefly is what is aphasia. And aphasia is an acquired communication disorder, and the important thing is that it impairs a person's ability to process language, but does not necessarily affect intelligence. And it's very important to make those distinctions. Now, there's lots of different models for identifying and teaching strategies, and in our careers, we have come across pretty much all of them, we think. There's many different types of support available. There's light tech options, mid tech options, high tech options. There's lots of different things that that you can use with somebody who has aphasia, and it's just a matter of figuring out what works for each person. And as we all know, tablets dominate the North American consumer market, and they're part of everyday life for many people. Now we realize that often people who have a stroke and end up with aphasia are on the older side of the population, but we've seen some very amazing, interesting work with seniors who are right on their tablets every day. So just briefly, where are we? I work at CAIA, and it's a provincial resource program in British Columbia. We have, see the little green dot, which is where Vancouver is. And that gold star is Vancouver Island, and it's specifically Victoria, and that's our capital city. Vancouver is the larger city, but it's not the capital city. So we have staff all over the province, and our staff work where they live and see clients in their homes, or in their workplaces, or their day programs, or their schools, or wherever they spend their days. And so we look at what kind of AAC system is going to work for somebody who cannot speak. Our major app for tablets is TouchChat. We've been using it almost exclusively now for at least 5 years, and we have a lot of resources that we devote to TouchChat. And so we created a page set that would work with our clients using that app. So what we did is we met with the SLPs who work at the GF Strong Rehabilitation Center, and that was where Anne was working at the time. As Lisa said, as the provincial AAC person for adults in acute care. And so we talked to those SLPs who work, the 100% of their caseload is people with strokes and head injuries. And we asked them, if you guys had a perfect app and a perfect template, what would go in it? And so we just got all their ideas, and we followed the core values from the Life Participation Approach to Aphasia, which is from the Aphasia Institute in Toronto. And we created the app template that they were interested in, and we expected the pages to be part of a multimodal communication system. So we weren't going to give up gesturing, we weren't going to give up writing, we weren't going to give up whiteboards. We were just going to add this in for the people that it was appropriate for. So this is just a slide about the life participation approach to aphasia. The core values there, you can read them. And yeah, it's the institute that's out of Toronto, Ontario. And we subscribe to these core values. And one of the things that we talked about with our SLPs at the rehab center was grids versus visual scenes, because we know that that is a hot topic in the field of AAC. And the population that we're working with, the people that come to the GF Strong Rehabilitation Center are severely impaired. And so having all the topics available on the edges of the pages was just too much for them visually and linguistically. The SLPs wanted to be able to quickly simplify and modify the pages. And so they were taking multi-chat for their clients and they were gutting it and they were redoing it for every single patient. And we just wanted to save them some time. We wanted to give them a template that they didn't have to completely empty every time they wanted to start. So this is why we decided to go with the grid format. Excuse me. So the page set features, they can be used by people with different types of aphasia, different degrees of severity, and with a range of cognitive issues. They can also be used to enhance the understanding of spoken language as well as being used as for voice output. So we have a couple slides here on some of the features. There's options to personalize messages, topic setters. We've got some scripts for narrative, social interaction, self-advocacy, directing care, repairing communication breakdowns. We've got symbols in there, pictures, words. We do have some visual scenes, maps, schedules, and scales. So we have quite a wide variety for the practicing SLPs to choose from. And now I'm going to hand it over to Anne. So now you're going to be hearing Anne's voice.
Anne here. Hello. So for the next few slides, we're going to be talking a little bit about supported conversation. We can imagine communication that is a two-way process that is like a teeter-totter or a seesaw, if you remember from when you were children. One person pushes and the next person pushes and there's a perfect balance. But if you recall from when you were a child, if one of the people on the seesaw was smaller than the other one, what would you do? You could either find something very heavy to put beside the smaller person, or if you recall, the larger person could move up closer to the middle, and that redistributes the weight. So I see that as a pretty good analogy for communication. You can have the person whose communication skills are not as strong, you can give them some tools that make them weightier, or the person who is the communication partner with typical communication skills can slide up and just take on a little bit more of that communication responsibility. Yes. Should I be doing that? Yes. Okay. So here is just some information about supported conversation, because supported conversation, as you know, is crucial to aphasia treatment and participation. The websites we have here, the first website is the website for the Aphasia Institute in Toronto, Canada. And the clinicians there were the first to articulate the life participation approach to aphasia, which focuses on ways to re-engage with life after a stroke. So it's less about specifically the communication and more about getting that person with aphasia back into their life and giving them the tools to do so. And of course, there are many communication tools that they will need for that. So the Aphasia Institute describes supported communication techniques, and those are to either elicit more information from the person with aphasia or with aided input to help the person understand what is being said. And then the second website, also from the Aphasia Institute, offers some self-directed learning modules about supported communication. And you can learn and practice the techniques there if you wish. The final address is for a video I'll show you now. And instead of starting at the very beginning, painful silence fills the conversation that you don't want to have those painful silence. We'll start at the supported conversation part so you can see an example of the types of supports that we use. Okay.
All right, well, unfortunately, Lisa was typing to us that that was a little bit jumbled, and that's a shame. It's too bad because it was working fine here in our office. Yes. But you do have the link, and you can go after the webinar and see the whole thing. So you can see the first part, which is with no supports whatsoever, and how frustrating that is. And then you can see the second part, which is with the supports. Our apologies for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll continue talking about the supported conversation. So we always talk about the 4 modalities of communication, and that's comprehension, expression, reading, and writing. And of course, people with aphasia can have difficulties with any of those areas and can require supports in any of those areas and will benefit from supports in any of those areas. Gesture isn't listed here, but gesture is a 5th support. So for people with affluent aphasia, for people who need supported communication to aid their comprehension, we'll offer all of those supports. So for example, if you say to somebody, you left your sweater on the bed, but you know they might not understand that, you can say, you left your sweater on the bed where you sleep, with a gesture. You can show them a picture of the sweater. So you're adding pictures, you're adding redundancy to what you say, and you can check for, you can confirm and check that they understood you. Similarly, for non-fluent aphasia, for people who have trouble expressing themselves, you can use the same 4 modalities to provide supported conversation techniques. So your client is trying to tell you something and she just keeps saying, go, go, and you don't know what she means. So you find her communication device, you pull it out, and she can show you a picture of her daughter. She can tell you shopping. If she has a flyer from the store she's going to, between the two of you, you can figure out that she's going shopping with Kelsey. Another concept that's related to communication supported conversation, is the idea of communication ramps. We like this concept of communication ramps. It is similar to wheelchair ramps. Wheelchair ramps allow people with a mobility disability to access the community. A communication ramp will help people access the community by supporting their communication. So any tool that provides support can be considered a type of communication ramp. They may be objects, paper-based, electronic, and the different types we've put up on the screen here: visual scene displays, schedules, maps, clocks, written supports, everything that we usually use for people with aphasia. And now I think we're going to talk a little bit about the page set, just different ways that you can use our page set. People with aphasia want to communicate, and this app was designed to help them communicate. They also really, really want to talk. They like to feel themselves talking. They like to hear their voice again. And for many people, improved talking is a goal. So we feel it's very important to give them easy opportunities to practice throughout the day, even if their speech pathologist isn't there. This app makes it super easy for them to practice. And we're going to describe some features that will help them practice speech throughout the day too. The first feature is pause between the words. And again, that's because people with aphasia want to speak. But often there's a concomitant apraxia, which prevents them from being able to organize their muscles in time to make smooth, connected speech. So if we simply slow the rate of the words, slow the rate of the whole phrase down, the distortion makes it very difficult for the person to follow and difficult to understand. Instead, if we use the pause between the words feature, you've got a couple of seconds, anywhere from 1 second to 3 seconds, where there's a pause and they can reorganize their muscles for the next word. So that, for example, a phrase where they're saying, tall coffee, no cream, they can say, tall coffee, no cream. And the words aren't distorted, but there's space in between. And this is for practice. People will not use this feature for communication. The other practice feature is the videos that it's so easy to insert into the app. We put a video of my elderly mouth up here. Lois is laughing because Lois convinced me that you need to know how easy it is to put the videos in. So in less than a minute, we made a quick video and inserted it into the app. You don't have to be beautiful. It's just so that the client can see the video and can practice after. So for example, this client wants to practice thank you, and I've just made a quick video of myself and they can repeat after me. We have lots of people who have pages with practice videos, and they click on one and they see the speech pathologist's mouth moving and they hear it, and then there's a little space where they can say, I didn't leave any space for this one because I didn't want to waste your time, but we leave a space and then we try again. Okay. Another feature that is really important for people with aphasia is a whiteboard. And TouchChat does not have a whiteboard that is attached to it. So if you're using TouchChat on an iPad, you're going to have to close TouchChat and open up a whiteboard app. The NovaChat, the TouchChat that is loaded onto the NovaChat can link to a whiteboard app, but not on the iPad. Either way, you will choose a whiteboard app. Our recommendation is to find a really simple one, free. There are many of them. We have our preferences, but everybody has a preference. And you can use that whiteboard app either for the communication partner to provide aided language input by drawing or writing, or for the person with aphasia to attempt to draw or to attempt to spell in order to augment their own communication.
So it's Lois again. This is what our page set is called Communication Journey Aphasia. So if you have a copy of TouchChat, it's one of the free page sets that comes with the app. This is what the main page looks like. Now, this is not for everybody. This is the overall template that you will see when you open up the app for the first time. So the important thing to know, and we just cannot overemphasize this enough, is that it has to be customized. Every person is unique. They have unique abilities, they have unique life experiences, and they have unique needs. And we did have some really great pictures here, but unfortunately, due to copyright issues, we couldn't put them up. We had an elderly, feisty senior with a glass of something that was probably really tasty, kind of grinning at the camera. And then we also had a picture of a youngish to middle-aged person of color who was sitting at a mixing board in a sound booth. And what we wanted to impress upon you is that they probably have extremely different vocabulary sets. They have different abilities, different life experiences, and in their life, they have different communication needs. So it is not ready to go out of the box. One of the first things you need to do before you even start customizing and making decisions about what symbols and what categories of this app you want for your client is you have to do an assessment. You have to learn about your client. You have to gather information about them. You have to understand what their language comprehension, expression, their literacy, their ability for gestures and drawing, what their sensory capabilities are. And so that's the information about the actual individual. And then you need to know what kind of environment they're communicating in. Where will they communicate? With whom will they communicate? And what are they interested in actually communicating about? And so Saltillo, at Kaya, we have what we call the communication information, the client information form. And our SLPs take that out in their initial appointments with their clients and fill that out so that our SLP assistants know how to program whatever we're trialing with somebody so that it's actually functional. So Saltillo has taken that and kindly put it up on their website, and you guys can download it and have a look at it. This is an important part of our basic AAC assessment that we do on every client at Kaya. So once you know about what the client's abilities are and you know what the communication environments are going to look like, then you can decide on the best system for that person. So you would look at things like supported communication techniques. I have to say one of the things that's turning out to be quite popular since it came on the market in the last couple of years is a thing called the boogie board, which is basically a portable whiteboard. It almost reminds me of an Etch-a-Sketch. And that is part of what we would consider a light tech approach. Non-tech approaches, there's all kinds of gestures of pointing, looking. People have residual language abilities. And then there's electronic equipment potential. On our Kaya website, we do have a document that a committee of our SLPs created a few years ago, from 2014, I see down the link. And it's AAC for people with aphasia, and it's considerations for how we attempt to provide the best service that we can at Kaya for our clients who have aphasia. So now Anne's going to talk to us about our case studies.
And the first case study is Betsy. We have a couple of case studies here, and we'll talk about Betsy first, just as a way to demonstrate how to customize the pages. Betsy was an active woman with a family, with a business she loved, and with lots of friends. For her, nearly everything she did was about her relationships with the people around her, both in her business and in her personal life. And now she finds herself unable to communicate. She was in hospital when we made this page for her here. Her speech pathologist realized that she couldn't deal with a lot of items on any page. So this was her main page. This is the main page they came up with. And so that will be modified from the main page that Lois showed you. The topics we chose also were chosen very carefully to be very, very high interest to her and very concrete, because she's not at a stage yet where she can deal with anything abstract. So under each one of these icons, there is a page embedded. And as she progresses, we can add either more icons to the main page, or we can add more information and more pages to the embedded pages. So we chose some, oops, that's okay. I'm just gonna go back one.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. Oh, I can't go back one.
Yes, you can.
Sorry.
Our first technical glitch.
We don't need to go
There
back. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So what we chose was 2 topic pages, and that would be the health issues and the hospital people, and a visual scene page, and I guess the family as well, but family has a timeline. So now I'm going to turn, right. We're not really talking about editing today. If you need some help with editing, could you please contact your Saltillo rep? But we would just like to say that it moves very quickly once you've figured out how to do it. We were able very quickly to delete most of the items on the main page and move important pages up to the front. So here she is with the page that was the visual scene page, and she has on this page she has 3 different visual scenes that she can go to. Sorry, 2 visual scenes and 1 advanced timeline. That's right. And so for the timeline, this also is easy to edit. The speech pathologist collected information from her family and programmed it onto a timeline page. Now, with this timeline page, you really need to add symbols. If later they'll be able to add symbols for Betsy, but right now she's not able to read, and this is a lot of information. So the supports will be for her communication partner, and her therapist can use it as aided input. Just again, I'm going to see if I can go back. Can I go back one? Yep, that's right. So on this page, you'll see that she has a My Life button. And My Life button is where the timeline was programmed. And the Events button will open up to a page which we haven't shown you here, but which
that is in the page set.
Is in the page set, and will have different visual scene displays that she can look at and that can be used for conversation with her. And that is also similarly to her jewelry store icon picture, which opens to a visual scene page which has comments and pictures related to her business. Okay, and now past the timeline. And again, regarding the editing, it can move very quickly, but we're not really going to be talking about editing here.
It looks kind of complicated right now because there's lots of tiny little blank squares, but it does move quickly, and if you are experienced in programming touch chat, you can do it almost on the fly.
Okay. So our second case study is about Dan, and just to illustrate the difference between the 2 case studies, Dan is a very, very different person from Betsy. Betsy was all about relationships. She was a busy, happy, family-oriented person with a very severe aphasia. Now, Dan is the quiet type, very independent. He was a systems analyst. He had friends, but he didn't really have a lot of family in his life. He wanted to continue after his stroke to be as independent as possible. And his main barrier to independence was his communication disability. So this was a man who has things he wants to do in his life, and the communication is the barrier. So his main page is very, very different from Betsy's. what we chose here were some topics that arise frequently. So that would be money and transportation, because as he goes about the community in his independent way, or trying to be independent, he has to talk with people about transactions that they're engaging in. And he doesn't have family to support him in this communication. He's trying to do it by himself. The activities icon was important because he has some activities that he enjoys doing. He likes to play golf. He likes to watch hockey. He has a friend he watches hockey with. So we've listed those activities under the activities page, and we'll see that in just a minute. The people icon allows him to talk to whoever his communication partner about important people in his life. For example, he'll have a bus driver there, and he'll have a neighbor, and he'll have a friend. He has the emergency information because he can't tell people his address, his phone number. So that page was important for the main page. He also has a keyboard because he can use some writing to support his communication. And also, he uses two other icons, the I'm stuck icon and the strategies icon, as supported conversation techniques, and we'll get to that in a minute. So here's an example. Here's his activities page. On his shopping icon, it will open up to a page that says, is that on sale? It has a number of shopping related comments that he would like to be able to make. The hockey, again, has comments he would make to his friend who is watching hockey with him. And the golf icon helps him pay for his golf game and allows him to get right on the golf course. So, and then he's also a pretty good navigator. So he has a clear button that he uses to clear the message window. And he has a go back button, which takes you just back to the activities page, and a home button that takes you right back to the main page. Here is his maps page. That is a very important page for him. He uses maps for many things other than showing people where he has to go. He uses them as a supported conversation technique. So he can pull out a map and he can say today, you'll see here, I should show you what the maps are first of all. One map is a map of Vancouver where he lives, in the part of Vancouver that is, yeah, that's Vancouver where he lives, and then the other part has his neighborhood. And so he can say, I went for a walk, I went to the art gallery, or he, and I went and had coffee at a particular coffee shop. He can talk about his day by showing the map, or he can tell his bus driver where he's going by showing the map.
Yeah, so if the one on the top left-hand corner is the zoomed out map, which shows Vancouver and part of Richmond and North Vancouver and West Vancouver. And then if you can see Stanley Park there, that green spot, and then it says downtown. When you actually click on the word downtown, that is an invisible button, and it will pop you into the map that is on the bottom of your screen. And that is what we call the downtown core. So Google Maps will automatically populate some things like the Aquatic Center, the Art Gallery, Gastown, Plaza of Nations. But then using Touch Chat, we put in things where Dan likes to go. So Canada Place is a convention center and there are restaurants there. The VPL is the acronym for the Vancouver Public Library. Rogers Arena is where the Vancouver Canucks play, and Dan is a big hockey fan. So we were able to use, with our clients, we are able to use these maps and customize them so that they are not just paths for how to get around. They're actually supported communication materials that our clients use in many, many different ways. And then you can see on the sides how we were able to add symbols like it's around here, it's not on this map, and things like that. Yeah.
So the more customization that happens with maps, the more they can be used as a conversation ramp for the supported conversation. As Lois said, we program where people live or where their most commonly attended activities are. They trace routes, they talk about the community. The more carefully the map is programmed, the more useful it's going to be as a tool.
And why are we not moving? Here we go.
Thank you. So if you remember his main page, there was one icon that was called I'm stuck. And I remember when we made up the vocabulary for this page, there was a lot of conversation about what to call it. Because I'm stuck didn't seem very professional, but it was just what worked best for our clients. So this section where he cannot explain what he means and the conversation partner does not have the information to be able to elicit the right information, this page will help him provide some extra information so that his communication partner can play 20 questions and guess what it is he's trying to talk about. So as an example, actually I haven't got to the example yet. So some of the techniques will be ask me yes, no questions. And then the communication partner knows to say, is it about something that's happened, you know, is it about your family? Is it about something that's happened recently? Or he can say, I'm stuck, it's not on this iPad. And then he's going to have another page later where he'll be able to tell you what to do. It can be, it's a person, it's a thing, it's a place, it's something that happened, it's something that's going to happen. So as an example, if he pushes the it's something that happened button, he can either go to calendar page and show you when it happened, or he can say it was a short time ago or a long time ago, and the communication partner can guess what he's trying to talk about. This is a page of supports.
And you're co-creating the message at this point. So it's not like Dan is just saying the message and you are listening. You are talking about the message together and you are co-creating. So it's a person, it's a thing, and it's a place. Those buttons lead you to other pages that would be customized with the people, the things, the places that Dan is familiar with.
The strategies page is also really useful for somebody who wants to be independent. So on this page, he has selected and programmed onto his page, or let me rephrase that. He has edited off the page anything he's not going to use, because on the app, all of the possible strategies are listed, and it is the speech pathologist's job to remove any strategy that he does not use and leave the ones that he does use.
Yeah, one of the things that when we were talking back with the speech pathologist at GM Strong about what they wanted, we were going to create the 15 button app page set, and then we were going to create a 9 and a 4 for the speech paths. And once they got the 15 or the 12, whatever, it varies slightly between pages. Once they got the more complicated page set, they didn't want the less complicated ones because they didn't want to be going back and forth between page sets. What they said was it was just easier to work with the more complicated one and edit out, as Anne said, edit out the buttons that they didn't want. So we never actually made the 9 and the 4, which was our original intention, but they basically told us not to bother.
Mm-hmm. So some of the strategies listed here, again, will be ask me yes, no questions. Narrow down so that you can guess the category. That is not what I meant. Please be patient while I put together a message. And that particular strategy allows him to go into his app and construct a message. That please be patient while I construct my message is really helpful for unfamiliar communication partners, for example, clerks in the community. I can't make myself clear, let me try again later. Also allows him to bring more information and try to finish what he was trying to say.
And it also gives a graceful exit to a communication interaction that is just not going well. And sometimes, despite your best trying, you might not figure out what the message is that he's trying to get across. And it's just a way for him to get out of a situation.
Yes. Yeah. And the repeat my message button expands when he chooses it to Please repeat my message so that I can confirm that we understand each other. And then also, could you please speak more slowly?
Yeah. So basically, the conclusions that we got from the case studies is that each page set is customized to help each individual achieve their goals. And then the page set has to be taught. It's not that we can just put this in front of a person and all of a sudden they will start using it. What our SLPs at GF Strong did is they would often choose the buttons and modify the buttons with the patient, the client, so that they were a participant in the creation of the page set, and they could learn about what was happening in the page set and how things were going.
I believe that Dan started off with 4 on his main page when he was in the acute care hospital. And by the time he was in the community, he had expanded to 9 and was still adding information.
And then again, each page set, for that reason, should continue to grow, because as people recover from their stroke or their brain injury, they are going to make gains, and the page set needs to reflect what their communication requirements are. So these are the references that for your perusal after the webinar, and then at the bottom, the assistivetechnology.ca is the organization within GF Strong Rehabilitation Center that looks at assistive technology in acute care, and then the KayaBC.org is the website that where I work at Kaya. And we are community-based. So assistive technology is hospital-based and Kaya is community-based. So thank you for attending. I realize that it's 11:15, but we were hoping that there would be questions and that there would be dialogue, and that maybe we could answer some of those at this point. So Lisa, do I give, okay, here's a question. Can you talk more about the evaluation process and how you select the items for users and then customize?
Sure. Would you like to talk about the evaluation process?
Well, I can talk about what we do at Kaya. At Kaya, we have an online AAC evaluation form that we use. And so what we do is every SLP has to complete one of these assessments for a client. We are always looking at light and paper-based strategies as well as electronic strategies. And we do equipment trials, we do assessments. We have formalized assessments that we use in an informal manner. And we just basically do a basic SLP AAC assessment for each of our clients and make our decisions based on that.
And my comments are, first of all, that we do at the hospitals, we do little formal evaluation because what we really want to do is start the communication process. So it's more diagnostic treatment. What we're doing is we're spending a lot of time, and we can't emphasize how much time it takes to collect up the right information. There's no way around how long it takes to collect up information to construct a page set. You can use checklists, you can ask people to bring you information, but the bottom line is you need to ask them what is important in this person's life and what they need to talk about, and you need to find out the specific vocabulary. So while we're evaluating that person and their ability to communicate, we are also talking with their family and with them about what we are going to put on a page set.
And I don't know if any of you have a large geographical area to cover, but at Kaya, some of our staff who don't work in the greater Vancouver area have a large area to cover. So the client information form, once somebody sends in the request for service to Kaya, our clerical staff send them the client information form. Then if that comes in, that's great. But if it doesn't, sometimes our SLPs will call the team and actually fill that out over the phone before they make their first visit, simply because they don't have enough information to do some preliminary programming of a page set for somebody for an equipment trial. I mean, an equipment trial, from our perspective, needs to have some customized vocabulary in it in order for it to find out whether it's going to be successful or not.
Have we answered the question?
Yeah. So here's a second question. Then also, how does the continued support of the vocabulary continue?
Yes.
Training other SLPs or assistants and or family to be on board with the implementation.
And that is as difficult as it sounds, because we don't have the funding here to provide even weekly speech pathology ongoing through that person's life, and yet the communication system has to grow with them and improve with them as their communication skills improve, and as the number of communication environments that they find themselves in changes. So we hope for a family member who will be able to take that on. In some cases that are more high level, for example, Dan could do a little of his own programming, but he couldn't spell well enough to search, so he needed to have some assistance with that. Mostly we rely on a speech pathologist, and so I've had patients who we discharged into the community who didn't have community services, and then we could see them back later 6 months and try and review and update their app, and that is not optimal.
And so also, because in British Columbia, I mean, we do have Kaya, which is a provincial resource program. When somebody is discharged from the rehab setting, we are in close communication with the SLPs who work at the GF Strong Rehab Center. So they will let us know if they have somebody who's being discharged to a community in the province that has a tablet with a touch chat on it. And then they will come under our radar. And we provide a type of a monitoring service where we check in with them periodically as to how they're doing and is the equipment being used. And then within our monitor framework, we can do some one-time trainings for the key person. But we do not have the resources to train everybody who works with the client. We have to identify a key person, and that is the person that we put most of our training into. Yeah.
Do you use the same client form to reevaluate?
Do you use the same client information form to reevaluate? The client information form here is only used at the beginning. Although I have to say that now that Kaya is 12 years old, when clients are coming forward to us and saying, you know, we really need to turn in our Epson now, or we really need to turn in our dedicated communication device that doesn't work anymore, we can do a redo a client information form if their circumstances have changed to the point that their vocabulary is very different. So it just depends on the client and what their needs are, and how their vocabulary has changed. Everybody's vocabulary will change a little bit, but some people, especially if they move or they go from a work setting into retirement or something, they could have extreme changes in vocabulary. Right, Anne?
Yes. And I'm just looking at this next question. Have you used this with patients with primary progressive aphasia? It's an acute care SLP, and wondering what are best implementation strategies when receptive language is significantly impaired. I have had a number of patients with primary progressive aphasia, and I am sad to say that as we get close to the end of their, as the disease progresses, I have found it more and more difficult to use anything electronic with these people, because the dementia just increases to include so many different areas. Lois, you're about to say something.
So and that's what we find at Kaya as well. So when these people, and I mean, as people get near the end of their life and their communication abilities decline, the partner, if you remember the seesaw, the partner has to take more of the communication responsibility in that conversation. And so we find with many of our diagnoses where a decline is expected, that near the end, we go back to light text strategies the most.
Yeah.
So we'll go to partner assisted scanning. You know, when you get near the end, the technology is not as useful. And that's just our experience up here in British Columbia.
What is key is that we try to keep the locations of information the same as much as possible. So if you have a low-tech system that resembles the electronic system that you have made up so that they can find their vocabulary easily, they'll continue to remember it longer. Mm-hmm. You know, as long as it's something that they have developed the ability with at the beginning of the condition, then it's more likely to be retained a little bit longer toward the end of the commission, but they will probably end up using paper-based.
And our philosophy at Kaya is that everybody that has an electronic system has to have a life tech backup system. That in any phase of their life, there are always times and environments and situations where the electronic system just isn't appropriate, and so people need a backup system, and they just need one. All right. If any forms you use or recommend for continued monitoring? Speaking from a Kaya perspective, right now we do not. We monitor on the phone. We make phone calls and we do emails. So that is how we do our monitoring. We do not find that we get as good a response if we send out a form. The response percentage drops like a stone. So we get, and because we have to ensure that the equipment is being used because we run a loan bank, we need to contact people annually to make sure it's being used.
I would just like to go back to the question about the primary progressive aphasia. We were talking about using light tech in addition to the technology, and I don't think I was very clear when I talked about what that light tech is. We try to make a light tech system that exactly resembles the electronic system, so that all their vocabulary is in the same place. So the light tech system would match the vocabulary that they were using, not just a generic light tech system.
As much as possible.
Yes.
I mean, a partner-assisted scanning technique is going to be different enough, but if we know that those messages in the partner-assisted scanning system are the same messages, as an example, that might have been on the communication during aphasia app, then the client is going to be recognizing the vocabulary and the order and make it a little bit easier for them. Yeah, so Lisa's just asking now if there's any other questions or thoughts for discussion. We've got 5 minutes left.
So if you raise your hand, I can go ahead and unmute you. So I just want to make sure that that's, Julianne, you raised your hand. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and you can ask your question. Okay, you're unmuted.
We're not hearing anything. I'm not sure if someone's talking, but we aren't hearing a question.
Okay, I don't think that, I think she might have raised her hand.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for the great information. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Should I stop showing the screen now, Lisa? Hand it back to you.
You can do that. Yeah. I'll go ahead and take it back.
Okay.
Okay, so I had posted in the, I'm going to mute you because of feedback. I had posted in the chat window some information just where there are some resources. If it'll let me show my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now, and on the Saltillo website, just to kind of show you a little bit more about where the information is at, that client information form that they have used, we've posted here, so you can download that, and it'll be a PDF form that allows you, it's not fillable. There is a user's guide for the vocabulary, so it does talk about some of that programming that's really important to customize for the clients. And then Kaya has been nice enough to share the resources, and I really love this map. It kind of, once you've filled out the client information form, it allows you to kind of visualize where your client might be. So by assessing the different areas, it kind of tells you, walks you through who that person might be. And then there are some target skills, assessment therapy ideas. I think it's a really great resource, even for explaining to families and other people a little bit more about where we're going with things. So I can tell you that I like that resource as a reference. There are also some videos available that we've done, so just some of the common things that we might change or adjust to customize. So there are some video tutorials here talking about the conversational controls. Lois and Ann actually did the videos for those, and then there's some programming ones. And we're going to try to continue to add to this as well for things that we find that people need. So you'll also find those on the TouchChat website as well. So those same videos are on there. So they go across platforms. It's available on both. So any other questions? We have a couple minutes. If you're looking for ASHA credit, you do have to stay on until that 1 o'clock Central Time where I'm at. So I'm in Iowa. So we do need to stay on those 2 minutes in order for you to get the credit. There will not be a post-test. I'd really like to thank Lois and Ann for all the work that they have done with this program. I met them at Isaac. Where were we at? I think we were in Portugal. When they were doing their first presentation, they were so excited about all the results and the successes that they were having with Lisbon. Yeah, okay, so that was in Portugal. So we met there. They were getting ready to do this international presentation about the results that they were finding, and it's just continued to grow from there. So they've done a lot of work to really get this vocabulary where it's at, and done the programming and simplifying and the manuals and everything that's been put together. So I really want to thank them for doing everything. And someone asked if we send a certificate of participation. If you will send an email, when you'll get a follow-up email. We don't have a certificate that's automated, and we can create one though for you. So not everybody seems to want them, so we stopped doing it. So if you'll go ahead, you can send me an email as well, and I'll get you one. And that gets us to the top of the hour. We thank you so much for joining us today, and keep looking for other webinars as we keep moving forward, trying to help everybody figure out all the information we need to implement all these different systems.